And welcome back, everyone, to Game 2 of MG Element versus Spectre Gaming, as I have the overlay backwards here. RareAdam alongside Indefia here, who has come through for Game 2. And after a pretty impressive Game 1 performance from MG Element, Spectre Gaming, they've got to get back up on their feet to try and push this one to a Game 3.
Yeah, so far I'm not surprised I didn't see the immediate LeBlanc ban. It really just felt like from what I got to see of that last game, that LeBlanc kind of just ran over the whole game. So like I'm a big proponent of if there's like a specific problem champion, even if normally you don't want to ban it, like you just get it out of the way just to make sure the same stuff doesn't happen over again.
And realistically, the LeBlanc was the X factor in a lot of ways. We weren't expecting it to do as well as it did. We weren't expecting that performance from the at the very least out of King Annihilator, but 13-0-7, you can't argue with that. But the Volibear is going to be taken away as the option, so seems like they are more worried about Runner 90 than King Annihilator here, which is an interesting angle to say the least.
I think part of it maybe is that they're just hoping to put like Runner 90 on a suboptimal pick for him to the point where maybe he'll like mess up a little bit more. Because I noticed in the recent weeks, not really counting today, he was definitely playing a little aggressive and getting caught out a little more than expected. Um, so maybe they're just trying to pick on that a little bit. Instead, though, they are going to opt in for the two jungle bans, which I think is pretty interesting. Maybe they think that they're going to have a better comp to deal with the LeBlanc, or just a scenario in which case that um, they might not choose LeBlanc. But unfortunately, MG Elements also has red side counter pick, and I'm assuming that after the performance that King Annihilator had, that you're going to save the last pick for him.
Yes, and of course you still have that sort of uh, counter ban situation where you can blind pick something R3, take away two of those champions as well if you so
Hmm.
desire. But it's going to be Jinx Aphelios traded back and forth here. I dare say, not surprising with the state of bot lane right now, but Viego actually comes out of the woodwork for Runner 90. This is a champion that he's played a couple times, but it's more so the Zac, the Volibear, the Fiddlesticks as sort of that third option from Runner 90. Interesting to see them opt for the Viego here.
Yeah, overall though, I think Viego's like really obviously extremely powerful. All it takes is a few resets, and then he can take over a team fight. I think that he's really good in general as a pick. I I'm just curious in how he's going to pilot this champion, if he's going to pilot around his lanes or try to like force the issue a little bit. In which case, it might be difficult, especially with like the Lulu coming out with Lulu Jinx, just like a known deadly combo.
And the Hecarim seems to be the hover for now. Interestingly enough, according to all general metrics, if you look at solo queue, Viego kind of a bad jungler, Hecarim a really bad jungler, lowest jungler
Mhm.
right now. Trundle as well, one of those junglers that doesn't do so well in solo queue, but in a team environment, it's so difficult to take away from what impact Trundle can have because it basically means any tanks on the enemy team are just non-existent.
Yep. I do generally think it's a good pick. It's kind of interesting though that they went ahead and opt for it now. I'm assuming it's because they obviously want to wait for their top lane pick a little longer. Um, but Trundle is very powerful, especially in the jungle role. He can also be powerful in the top lane as well, so we could see it flex later on, but that's to be seen. And as far as I know, this is probably a Seraphine support, right?
Could very well be
It has to be. There's no way
it
they're gonna
has to
put
be.
King
There's no way
Annihilator on
Annihilator plays
Seraphine.
it. Yeah, you're right. Thinking about it now, I don't think there's any chance that Annihilator would play Seraphine mid lane. If they
In a
did,
vacuum, it could totally have been mid. But when King Annihilator's on your team, don't put him on Seraphine.
yes, I think you hit it right on the head there. I don't think you ever put King Annihilator on Seraphine, but unless it's full AP Seraphine, in which case, by all means, go for it. But
Hmm.
looking at the
I see we're getting the
bans.
mid bans now.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, three mid bans coming through the LeBlanc, taken away from King Annihilator. The Victor and Veigar taken away from Learning as well. And oh no, Learnings is a very confident mid laner as well in their own right. Just last game
Mhm.
had a little bit of trouble with the LeBlanc. That was, I think, the biggest thing. So curious to see what they will pick up this time around, especially now that they don't have the counter pick for themselves, and they're just going to pick Venom Camille up for that top side there. Last game it was banned away, but taking away the Shen instead here going to mean that Venom gets their hands on one of those bruiser top laners as well.
Yeah, the only thing though that's unfortunate for MG Elements at the moment is that they're not choosing an actual frontliner because basically Viego cannot frontline, Camille is not supposed to frontline. She's supposed to split push or flank. So at the moment they're actually leaving their team extremely squishy. It's because I'm assuming they want the value for Trundle. We're going to see Lake on the Shyvana again. So Spectre has more of it, I would say, a common, easier to execute comp of where you can front to back, as long as you get the scaling, as long as you hit the mid game, and you try to hit those dragon fights. And we might actually see an Azir pickup, which I do believe he has actually been rising in priority in solo queue, but I think Ari is a much safer pick, and I agree with Syndra as well. I think they're control mages that basically can control the state of the game a little bit better, while Azir is more of like a DPS late game carry. And when you have a Jinx and you already have like a Trundle and a Shyvana, you're not necessarily lacking in damage, but the pick potential and the safety of an Ari cannot be understated. And I think especially when you're doing a blind pick into King Annihilator, I think Ari was the pick there.
Yeah, and interesting to see the Shyvana come through because that is Shyvana for Lake. It's not a surprise at this point. I think the league has been aware that Lake plays Shyvana top lane here, but this is an interesting hover right now. Galio is going to actually get locked in here, so King Annihilator taking a little bit of a backseat here, playing a little bit more for the team there. Of course, you do have your Camille Galio combo. You've got great team fight now with the Seraphine ultimate, the Aphelios, the Viego. You're just putting King Annihilator on something a little bit more supportive.
Yeah, honestly, like even though that is the case, I believe that I like it really rounds out the comp because it's but now if you have the Galio, I do think that helps the round pretty drastically. And I think it was something that was kind of necessary because you could put King Annihilator on more of a carry, which wouldn't be bad, but it is also better, especially I think when you're game up, to test like these other comps of where you have King Annihilator take like somewhat of a backseat, and even then that doesn't mean you can't carry on Galio. Because I distinctively remember in, I believe it was 2017, I think it was SKT, where I watched like Faker basically hard carry on Galio like every game, even though like his team was struggling in a lot of areas, and he played a phenomenal Galio that could just honestly like carry through the damage, the roaming potential, and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. It's definitely an interesting pick, and we're yet to see King Annihilator play something like it, I believe. But I do think it rounds out the comp and it makes MG's Elements comp like a lot better.
Of course, a soul hover for learning. Wishing that champion was good again, but the Ari getting locked in. It brings a little bit of an interesting laning phase, though, because yes, Galio can carry games. They have a lot of damage with the Winds of War, more so a utility pick. I think that's just a known factor of Galio there. But into an Ari specifically seems to be a really challenging lane for this Galio. Learning should have the upper hand here. What do we need to see out of Learning to sort of take the game by control with a now winning lane matchup?
I think basically he's going to need a push and then kind of like dictate what Galio is reacting to. Because if he lets Galio get the push, then obviously like Galio would be able to use a lot of his tools to be able to help his team and be able to try to carry his own way. But if you basically keep him in lane and under turret the whole game, then it really takes away a lot of the pressure from the Galio. And it puts a lot of pressure on Viego. Because the thing is that even though Trundle isn't like a premier ganker, there are angles for him to basically find Aphelios and Seraphine, or even just use the pushing power of mid lane along with like the pushing power of Jinx and Lulu to try to like basically take these free dragons. And so I think if he just keeps like lane state under his control, I think that's a very good pickup for him, because I have a feeling that for MG Elements they still struggle to have tools to basically help their jungler out to gank, right? Because even though Galio has a lot of shutdown, there's Ari, right? That's she's got a charm to prevent somebody, and if she hits level 6, it's going to be really hard for Galio to be able to get onto her. And then Lulu Jinx by itself, like it's going to be hard for like Seraphine to get like a W or into it, but Aphelios just for Viego to finally get the melee range to be polymorph. So I have a feeling that Viego can definitely find heavy top side early. Trying to go for Ritual, I think that's going to be their game plan. I think Spectre just needs to go all out, and Shyvana needs to play safe. Ari needs to keep their research in.
How this sort of mid-game turns out once again, but just off of draft, what do you think is going to take game?
I think it's actually hard to say. I think that both teams drafted very well. I would say from draft 1, Spectre, I think that's easier to execute comp. they just have like a lot more leverage, a lot more things they can do. But then, as we know, MPL is a very strong team. All it takes is like one team fight with the community playing Gallery coming on it as well, or a Seraphine like 5-0. So it's like draft-wise, I want to give it to Spectre just because I think in this league it's easier to play that kind of comp. But I do think the MG element has the players and the skill to be able to play competition.
We'll have to see if the predictions for Spectre Gaming will end up being their downfall, as we saw, of course, earlier with Please Don't Run It. Predicted Spectre Gaming, they ended up losing. We'll find out if it is the Caster Curse or not. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we are back, we will be into game number 2 between Spectre and MG Element, or MG Element. We're going to get back up on their feet after a week. To DPS. And welcome everyone to Black Twitch League. We are back with Game 2 of our series here between Spectre Gaming and MG Element. These teams just love their level 1s and pinging the crap out of this game very early on, but looks like this time around it will be Spectre Gaming 5-pointing, whereas going to be a little bit of a sneaky invade coming through from MG Element. Are they going to find red in this bush? Isn't on vision quite yet. They're going to pop out. They're going to see a couple too many members. Red, though, will be forced to flash to get out of there.
Yeah, very interesting level 1. I love to see it. Unfortunately, for some reason, when I'm trying to click on characters, it's not letting me see their runes and stuff. Did Galio start E?
Galio started W.
He did start W. Okay.
Even
Yeah,
worse.
I see the shield now.
Yeah.
It's for a second I thought he ran into the wall. Is it because I'm zoomed in?
Could be that as
Okay,
well.
okay, now it's working. Now it's just arbitrarily working. Okay, interesting.
Right games, everyone, but Jungler's both going to be starting on this bottom side of the map here. I don't want to say, I don't think it's any surprise this time around here. Viego going to be going for the full clear. Swagasm as well. Could be looking for a level 3 gank. Most likely going to want to start with that red buff regardless.
Yeah, I think the thing with for Swagasm, it's going to be very difficult to obviously gank the Camille with her hook shot. So he definitely probably should be looking bot lane and maybe mid lane earlier on, because like the charm combo can lead to some early flashes and pressure. But meanwhile, I think Viego should be focused on clearing, and then top lane, you know, Herald, trying to basically exert the pressure of the Camille with the Ignite teleport, I mean. Even though it seems that Lake has opted into the same rune choice.
And I think with the... okay, another bug that we're seeing. CS isn't updating. Everyone's still at 0 CS. What is going
It's
on?
updating for me, so.
We will pause at 240, and I will try and see if I can fix it really quickly. Welcome to Behind the Curtains with the Black Twitch League here. Pausing at 240. I'm going to see if going back helps. It does not. Oh my goodness. I have never seen this bug before. Well, CS is not going to get updated this game. That's the way of the land. I will defer to you for CS.
Yeah, I will periodically talk about CS advantages.
And 238, 239, 240, 241,
Okay.
242. All right, so we're back into it here. Very sorry about that. Everyone got to see behind the curtains as Swagasm and Runner 90 having a little bit of a run-in on this top side of the map. 2 versus 2 on the top side. Ends up just being everyone backing away of note. Both top laners went TP Ignite in this lane.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Both teams in a way. Oh, you fixed it, nice. Both teams though are definitely like opting into scaling for sure. And as you can tell, like I think both junglers know that this top lane is about to be very volatile. But the hook shot is completely whiffed here.
Oh my goodness,
And
it's just going to be Ignite coming down on both sides, and the Runner 90 going to have to come through. Will end up taking over Shyvana to run away from the Trundle, but yeah, it's a 1-for-1 on the top side of the map. But First Blood goes over to Spectre Gaming and Lake.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised to see the Trundle opt into protecting his top laner, or at least like forcing the issue. I do like seeing it though, because he is going to force the TP out of Venom. Lake is going to TP, is going to save his TP because he's not really going to make much out of it besides running. All the CS is already hitting the turret anyway, or all the minions. But doing this basically is pretty smart from Swagasm's end. He's going to be able to invade here, and I believe still the small chicken as well. And I'm kind of surprised he's going, opting into getting these small raptors and wrapping around back top. I expected him to go for the other scuttle basically because his lane, he had lane pressure in both lanes. So I feel like basically like Runner shouldn't have been allowed to do this. But we're going to attempt to see another gank here. It should just be a hook shot and out, which is going to be the case. And see, that's why I didn't really like that gank by Swagasm. I thought he actually had a phenomenal start, but instead. He's going to be a little bit late on his camps now, and honestly, Runner's going to get a little bit more out of it than he should have.
Runner 90 will end up already has that kill lead for themselves, and now looking for a little bit of an invade. Wolves and Gromp still up for Runner 90, so The invade ends up working out in favor of the Viego just a little bit more, and we know that with the junglers like Viego and Trundle, tempo is everything. You have to keep your pacing in the early game, but mid lane, Annihilator learning. Going toe-to-toe here, Runner 90 is looking for the play. Justice Punch going to come through. The taunt not going to land, and learning is able to flash out of danger. Really well played from the Ahri to stay alive.
Yeah, it's really. Oh, we're gonna see like actually a return gank here. Not much is gonna come out of it. Just a little bit of a chunk coming from the Viego. I would expect him to basically recall soon, but he could decide to do his Krugs. Yeah, here's the recall coming in. But yeah, it's kind of weird that how Swagger decided to kind of fumble what I would have consider like a heavy lead for him in the jungle. Because since he had those pushing lanes, he could have kept the Raptors on his end, he could have gotten the double scuttle, and then honestly after he got the scuttle, since Viego decided to invade, he also could have potentially invaded Viego yet again, because of his lanes having as much pressure as they did, and then he could have basically kept like a heavy tempo. Instead, basically, Runner's able to basically just even out the farm and on top of the kill as well. He is, I think, winning out on the XP war, if I am correct. Yep, because here he is, level 5.
Yeah, just a little bit ahead in terms of the experience for themselves.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's also going to take just a while for, like, Trundle to clear Krugs, you know, and then his Raptors aren't going to be spawning anytime soon. Meanwhile, Runner's probably going to be approaching level 6 before I'm assuming Trundle will be, like, halfway.
And you can see that Swaggasm actually just going to try and look for a bot lane play here. I'm pretty sure this was sniffed out at some point, at least in terms of, hey, I think that the Trundle might be bot lane. That ward is going to confirm it, but may end up getting that bot lane Scuttle Crab, if not the blue buff as well. But you can just see Runner 90 does not care. We'll just keep running around the map looking for whatever plays that they want. But after those early kills, has been relatively calm across the Rift. Gold is dead even here at 7 minutes still.
Yeah, I do like the Trundle pick, but at this point he's playing a lot more like a Jarvan, I would assume, than a
Out
Trundle.
of blue, flashing forward though. Gonna go aggressive onto red. Will red be able to stay alive from this one? Lulu's got a lot of damage, but it's not enough. Out of blue, able to get the solo kill onto the Lulu somehow, some way, and stays alive with 10 HP.
I was so focused on the jungle, I didn't even notice that he just decided to all in there. And I guess since he knew that she only had heal and whatnot, he could take it, but man, he barely came out alive in that trade.
Incredibly close, and learning actually down on this bottom side of the map. Late game carries the only one down here, so they've got to be a little bit careful. But as you can see, the sort of counter jungling continues. Trundle taking away only the blue buff from the Viego. Meanwhile, Viego gets the blue buff as well as the Gromp, now level 6. And on this top side of the map, this is the Camille Galio combo we wanted to see here. Lake going to drop the Ignite, but it's not going to be enough. King Annihilator able to come through and pick up their first kill of the game as well. And believe that was the ultimate from Runner 90 to try and get a little bit of an assist there, but unable to get that to land, and it's going to be Dragon actually going over to the side of Spectre Gaming. So despite Shyvana going down, she's going to end up feeling a little bit better because she gets 5 bonus armor and MR.
Yeah, it's actually very good that they've managed. Like, for a second, I thought they were going to go for the Dragon, considering Swaggasm was pretty focused on the Raptors. But that's what you need to do when there's a cross-map play. You have to create a play of your own, whether it's just take an objective that's free. And I think we're going to be seeing this a lot, where I believe, especially since Lake does not have Flash, you know, he just expended TP as well. I think the side of MG Elements are going to be heavily focusing this top side, like over and over again, trying to get Camille into this like heavy split zone threat. Unfortunately, Runner 90 is going to be spotted out by this ward here, so he's going to go ahead and clear it. Not like he could have done too much besides just chunk her out at this point. But I'm curious if he's going to go to Herald, assuming that she's recalling, but that's just assumptions. But
Doesn't look like it, at least for now. Looks like they're just
Yeah,
going to
well,
play
'cause
it as safe as possible.
yeah, Trundle spent so much time in the bot side, you're just going to assume that he's probably going to be top side like soonish. But generally when there's no camps to farm, you kind of look to just, you know, do like a little check of the objective, you know what I mean? Where you start taking it, and if someone bothers you, then you leave. But if nobody bothers you, then you just take the free Herald. And we're going to see another wraparound gank here from Trundle. There are no summoner spells for the...
Everyone is down here on this bottom side of the map, though. Out of blue going to be in trouble, but late game carry. Annihilator's here as well. That's a kill already picked up. That's 2 picked up by the side of MG Element. They will end up losing the extra member, but overall, in what was a 4v2 for a little while there, getting out 3 for 2, or 2 for 3 at least, is not the worst case scenario. King Annihilator and late game carry pick up their kills there, but ends up just evening out the gold a little bit, as it will just be 1 plate picked up on the bottom side of the map. But yes, great play from both of these teams in terms of making plays happen.
Yeah, I really like that King Annihilator roamed when he did, because even though it was still 3 for 2, it would have probably been a 2 for 0, and I think that definitely evens out the trade a lot more than it would have otherwise. I think it would have been basically, free kills on the side of Spectre, and then not only that, but Viego was able to take a Gromp, he was able to take a Scuttle Crab, as well as able to get the Herald. I'm assuming we might see him go to Krugs, do a wraparound like lane gank in top lane, and you can kind of go ahead and see, you can pretty much see the game plan already coming into effect. And then another thing about Runner, if he does attempt to try something in the top lane, is that Galio's ult will be up extremely soon.
The Hero's Entrance, sorry, really big team fight tool, as we saw earlier with the Galio ultimate on top of the Camille ultimate. It's just a true combo, effectively. You think about, fighting games and whatever, and it's like basically go and jab into your kill move or something, effectively, with Venom just sort of locking them down. But, there is still plays to be made with someone like Runner 90 on this top side of the map. Hextech Ultimatum going to come down. Lake is stuck in the octagon there. Will actually do a big chunk of damage to Venom. Is there enough damage? Runner 90 going to flash forward to keep Venom alive, and that's going to be another kill picked up onto Lake here, who has been a big pressure sink on this top side of the map, for better or for worse here. This case, unfortunately, a little bit worse, as Herald should get dropped down as well, potentially, and a couple plates may come down, but actually Swagasm here to reply means that there's no Herald play to be made quite yet here, and Camille's going to be forced to back off. Oh, goodness.
Oh, actually, we could see. I think he knows the fact that Camille could still be around. I was about to say we almost might see a trade. I do think that Trundle could have been extremely dangerous there if he decided to ult and just kind of run Viego down. Would have been an interesting trade to see, but as Spectre often is, you live by the lake or die by it, and he's kind of not playing like he's the weak side warrior this game. I think he needs to realize that his team's win condition kind of relies on the mid and bot lane pressure, to where he just needs to kind of scale up and become like a more of a late game threat. Meanwhile, I think we're gonna have like a wraparound dive by learning that could go awful if this Galio ult hits.
Yeah, learning's gonna have to be careful, but will use that Spirit Rush to get out of there instead. Good ult by King Annihilator, but he has propped the Predator. Double taunt. Gonna be coming down onto Hyper F and Red. Huge damage from that passive proc. Actually, the heal comes through, as well as the flash from Red. So really a good counterplay, as actually Annihilator's just gonna teleport back to mid lane there. Ends up being ult for ult on that bottom side of the map, but I think the biggest factor there was Runner 90 coming down, who will drop the Herald. Ooh, the Encore is going to come through, but it will not land onto Red, so Red will be able to stay alive, as Herald just going to get that charge, and they will all get out of there in quick order.
I'm very curious about this. There's not that many flashes over on the side of MG Elements, but...
Oh my goodness, Annihilator might be in trouble. Force the flash over that wall as the Justice Punch gets blocked by the Trundle, but... interesting plays overall. Just a lot of interesting map movements. That's the best way to describe it, I think. It's a lot of movement towards the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, I think at this point, though, they are pretty low, actually, so I don't think they can contest the Drake yet. But with how many abilities and whatnot that MG Elements basically, like, used in the attempts of the counter gank and the other gank itself, I think that they should be looking for a reset and trying to get this Drake here. I see they're going for it now. It is extremely dangerous to go for it now, but it seems they're mostly just trying to keep out of the blue out of the picture.
Trying to keep out of blue, out of health as well, but Hyper F going to be forced to get Wild Growth there. Learning, though, going to be able to pick up a kill for themselves onto out of blue, who is out of everything now as it stands, but King Annihilator using that Predator down to that bottom side of the map. Swag has him in a little bit of trouble, has to be careful. Taunt will land onto Learning, who does not have any mana to speak of. No Wild Growth means that it's going to be a shutdown picked up by Runner 90. This Viego now 3-0-0. The charm comes down, though. Lulu caught napping, caught shopping. That's going to be another kill picked up by Runner 90, who is now 4-0-0 on this Viego, and I hate to say it, but that champion's starting to come way online, and coming online a lot quicker than the enemy team wants him to.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what Lulu was doing. Like, recalling that close into the face of the enemy team. Like, it's one thing to think that you can't get like hit, but then it's another to kind of ask for it, and I do feel like Lulu was asking for it in that scenario. Um, it's not too hard to take a few more steps back, my friend. Behind the turret is much better than in front of it. But yeah, it was definitely heads up play, I guess, by Runner to notice that the recall was pretty unsafe, especially considering that they got the Ari soul as well. And when I just kind of think it's unfortunate that MG Elements started putting a lot more focus on the bot lane. I do realize that they kind of want like their whole map fed, but I do think they had something going obviously in the top lane, right? Where Camille was basically getting more and more ahead. Unfortunately, she wasn't getting all of the kills. They went to Viego, but I feel like using the Herald there in the top lane would have been more fruitful if they were able, if he just reset and just immediately gank top again, and then just they kept the pressure up. I think basically making the Camille into a monster would help kind of like X out this Jinx in the late game team fights, even with the Lulu on her side.
Potentially, and I think really important to see what the sort of the coming developments are going to be, especially out of this bot lane, because thus far these bot laners haven't really had a lot of chance to breed. They haven't had a chance to farm up. Meanwhile, fight up on this top side. King Annihilator doing so much damage to this Trundle. Runner 90 is going to be able to pick up their 5th kill of the game. But as we're saying, these bot laners just have their Gale Force and the makings of their boots. Not really able to do too much. Lake is yanked back over the wall, though, with the Hextech Ultimatum. You hate to see it. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, it's going to be Learning able to pick up a kill onto King Annihilator. 6-0 now for Runner 90 on this Viego. They just keep getting kills, kill after kill after kill, and normally Runner 90 is the kind of jungler to go like 1-0-27. This time they're like, no, I'm the carry. You listen to my calls. I get all the kills this time around, Annihilator.
See, the one thing that's unfortunate, though, in my opinion at least, right, is like it's always good to have Viego super fed, but like I don't know if Runner will be safe with his bounty on his head, and all it will take, I can just imagine like a Dragon team fight's going to break out, right? And then Jinx is going to end up being able to get that bounty. And then all of a sudden, that's like 1,000 more gold into the Jinx's pocket as well, or maybe the Ahri, or just whoever manages to secure that. But overall, that can definitely be a huge gold swing onto the absolute wrong person for MG Elements. But overall, he's playing an absolutely fantastic game, and I hope he keeps it up. Honestly, I think both junglers have been playing relatively well.
It's going to be challenging to see how it will move up. I want to say, see how it pushes forward, because with these AD carries being sort of behind the curve a little bit, they won't have as much impact this game, but one kill, as you mentioned, Hyperf getting an 1,000 gold shutdown onto Runner 90, or out of blue, able to get one good team fight. That turns fates around so quickly, and with the status of AD carries in the current meta, they only need one kill to be really super relevant here. Runner 90, though, in the mid lane, looking for a play onto Learning, misses the Spectral Moss on there, so an unfortunate miss as Runner 90 playing with fire, as you said. Do you trust them with the bounty? Runner 90 doesn't even trust themselves with it at this point.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, the thing is, like, it's not definitely a knock against Runner 90. He just is a very aggressive player who likes to push his limits. And it's hard to imagine him going absolutely deathless after already having a 600 gold bounty on his head.
We'll have to keep our eyes on how it continues to push forward here, because now with the Divine Sunder has a little bit more survivability as well. So that's always important to note that, Runner 90, 3-4 of those kills were just on Blade of the Ruined King, able to reset, able to pick up a Mythic now. Still sitting on Tier 1 boots. You'll love to see that, especially at 19 minutes into a game, but working on it. We'll put it that way.
I know Lake wants to collect this minion wave, but I almost wish he would just like go straight to Dragon, because I know he's going to have to teleport there anyway. And we're going to see them go ahead and try. That's actually pretty massive, is to lose out on the Galio flash so early. The Camille already TPing in. Lake TPing at kind of a little bit far away from his team, but he's going to be able to collect this mid lane wave if he wants to. Keep it pushed, but he's just going to group up. I think the biggest thing for Spectre this game is that they have to keep the Dragons stacking and to not let Camille get this flank onto Jinx with the ult.
As you can see, third Dragon's sole point for Spectre Gaming is the objective here it's going to be a pretty big fight, and you can see Runner 90 already aggroing it down a lot, but oh my goodness, big Encore comes down. Big Moonlight Vigil as well. 2 members caught up on a blue, picks up their first kill there in the fight. Learning, though, to able to take down Venom. Who's really winning this fight? No one knows, but Out of Blue and Runner 90 are still very healthy here. SwagAsm takes down King Annihilator, but Runner 90 will be able to pick up a couple of assists there. I believe that's a kill going to King Annihilator as well as to Out of Blue, so in the end, it is the side of MG Element who end up on top. They go 3 for 2, and man, that was almost a massive fight for both teams, but yet MG Element just keep their lead and push it forward a little bit more.
You know, I know as Jinx, you definitely want to hit your 3-item power spike, and you definitely want to be strong as possible, but I think the QSS is going to be a necessity this game. Not necessarily just for the Galio or anything else that might hit you like the Seraphine, but I think you have to get out of the Hextech Ultimatum. I'm pretty sure you saw during that fight, they were cutting back, they were going front to back for a second. It almost looked that Spectre could have won the team fight, but then you realized that Jinx got just a little bit too far, she couldn't go any further, and then Runner just started running them absolutely down, and Jinx is unable to do any more damage, unable to utilize her flash. And I think we're going to have to see her have some kind of ability to be able to get out of these, whether it be a Lulu Mikhails coming in. Lulu can Mikhails the Hextech Ultimatum, right?
No, you can't.
No?
It is not a crowd control. It's like you can't QSS the Infernal Chains from Aatrox. It's weird.
That's weird, because I assumed it was similar to the Death Realm, which you can QSS. And I'm pretty sure if you technically time Mikhail's right, you can also Mikhail's Death Realm, believe it or not.
So you can Mikhail's Death Realm from yourself. It is very, very, very... I
think you can impossible. Also with someone else. Yeah, I think it's basically almost impossible, but there's a travel time. Like, there's a travel time with Mikhail's, so I think that there's a way to, but I think it lasts about as long as dragging him to the Death Realm.
Yeah, there's weird tech all over the place, to say the least.
See, I thought the only thing that you couldn't Mikhail's was suppression.
Yeah, it's weird. Maybe they can. You know what? Defiance will test it. We'll put it in the lab and we'll VOD review. That's the plan.
We'll VOD review.
We'll VOD it. But as it stands right now, the only team that really needs to VOD anything is Spectre Gaming, because they are still trying to find their way back into this game. And MG Element have played a very MG Element-esque series thus far, and you do the power rankings. You watch all these games as well as much as I've casted them as well. So we know what MG Element can do with the lead. We also know what Spectre Gaming can do when they're behind. They've been able to come back into these games so often. For the longest time, they had a negative gold difference at 15 for themselves, and they were still doing incredibly well. So it's on the cusp. There's still a chance for Spectre Gaming to get back into this. It isn't out of the realm of possibility. We know the gold is close because there's no objective bounty still, but do they have what it takes to push forward and get that big team fight for themselves? And players to watch, we have to keep our eye on Hyper F at this point, right?
Yeah, I think honestly, like, even though learning can create like a pick which can lead to a lot of positive scenarios for Spectre Gaming, I think a lot of it's going to come down to the team fights, and it all is all about keeping a Hyper F alive. And that's why I think he needs some way out of the Hextech Ultimatum, because that was like the only reason he was even hit by CC, was just because the Hextech Ultimatum just like left him just like completely out of the lack of movement. So we're going to see if they're going to be able to keep him alive. I think it's definitely going to be a struggle, especially considering how well and easily Camille got that flank. And this is an interesting gank in the bot lane, considering Baron is up.
Oh, yeah, Venom trying to stay alive. Almost able to take him. SwagAsm! The Ignite, though, ticking. Will not end up taking that down, but it's a 4v3 around this.
It's a big throw, though, from
MG Element. This is going to be incredibly close. Taunt coming down on to the Ahri. Ahri's taken down out of the fight. Runner 90 able to take that over. Red has shown up as well as Lake. Oh my goodness! Where's all this damage coming from? Hyper-Ref able to pick up a double kill, but now it is Runner 90 against the world. Will DeViego be able to do this? Kiting coming through. Red doing what they can, but it's not enough. Runner 90's legendary. They have the tools to be able to move forward. Potentially, Red trying to stay alive, trying to get out of this. No polymorph available. They will be able to get over the Baron Pit wall. Almost a big throw from MG Element, as you said, but Runner 90 saves the day with a massive performance with the Viego to keep everything alive. And now Swagasm, you do not want to be taking that fight. There's a teleport from behind. Venom has respawned, and Swagasm going to be forced to flash away from the hook shot wall dive there. It will be Swagasm getting out alive, but MG Element, they almost threw it all away. And of note, lots and lots of gold going back over to HyperF.
Oh yeah, man. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get as many kills as it looked like from that fight. I think maybe a few of them went into Lake's pocket, it seemed, towards the end.
It was double kill for Jinx and the other kill onto Shyvana. It was just a big burst of damage, to say the least.
Okay. Because I was about to say I expected a little bit more. But yeah, it just goes to show you like how well HyperF is generally at managing these fights. It looked like honestly that fight was just already won by them. I do like how they're potentially trading this Cloud Drake though for Baron.
Cloud Dragon, you have to prevent Soul Point from going down, but Baron is a possibility. Venom gonna be the one to spot this out and find out the bad news. There's not gonna be no smite. This might just be the fight afterwards that they're looking for. Venom, though, jumping into the middle of the team. Here comes the Galio ultimate onto 4 members. King and Annihilator able to find a pretty big taunt onto Learning there. Everyone's here, but they might have gone in one by one. This might be a disaster. A double kill picked up by HyperF. They're able to pick up the Dragon, but at what cost? You lose your top laner, you lose your mid laner, and you're losing your bottom side of the map. But Out of Blue almost able to pick that one up with the Infernum ultimate there. Moonlight Vigil could do so much damage onto a couple of those targets, but it isn't enough. And HyperF out of the woodwork they come, able to pick up 4 kills in a row now for themselves, and this Jinx is starting to come online.
Oh yeah, like that's one of those things that like regardless of MG Element's game plan, or even like honestly Runner's completely immaculate play this game, like when you've got HyperF on Jinx, it just feels like it's always a win condition you can rely on.
And despite the nerfs that Jinx and Aphelios use, despite all of these nerfs, there's a reason why they're still picked, because they are so dang strong. When you give them an inch, they will take it all the way. But my goodness, this game is ramping up to be more than what we bargained for. We mentioned Spectre Gaming, great at coming back into games. Look at the gold lead. It is almost dead even once again here at 26.5 minutes. And in a lot of ways, the Dragons being tied up benefits the side of Spectre Gaming still, because they've got a Hextech Dragon, which gives them attack speed, a little bit of ability haste, and a little bit of extra regen compared to just a strict movement speed coming through from those Cloud Dragons. Granted, you gotta try and pick up some of these. You don't want to just give over a 4-stat Cloud Soul.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but the advantage of them picking up those 2 early dragons, which is another thing that I love about like early dragons on scaling comps, is you can like afford to give away like mini drakes basically, because like it gives you so much less of a timer to work with.
Here comes the fight though. Late game carry able to find Red, and this fight looked so good at the beginning for the side of Spectre Gaming, but it's not enough. Runner 90 running the fight. It is a 2-for-2 for the time being. There's actually some damage was traded back the other way, courtesy of Lake on that Shyvana, but it looked really good. It looked like they just had a free pick onto Venom, but he stays alive forever there. And
yeah, the lake burst in the middle of that fight was actually nuts. I thought that like MG Elements like kind of stomped that, like smurfed that fight a little bit, even though I thought that Venom was getting caught. But then all of a sudden, like the lake burst just came through, and they managed to change it into an almost even trade, except for the fact that you'd rather have your mid and top, or your mid lane alive than your support alive, basically.
For King Annihilator this game, playing the more supportive pick, ending up being a little bit more of that frontliner, being sort of that I will die for the team champion. It's a little bit of an interesting angle compared to what we saw in game number 1, where they were this massive carry. Annihilator maybe just getting pushed down the champ pool a little bit, understanding that, hey, I'm not going to get myself a super favorable matchup. It's Ari. She's going to be able to roam around the map a lot quicker than I do. I will just try and follow with my ultimate. But Baron once again is the angle. Orb of Deception actually hits that up, and Red now taking a little bit, forced to use that Wild Growth incredibly early, but Venom already taken down a half health, despite this Camille having 2.5 items. No magic resist to speak of thus far, so will be forced back. But now HyperF in a little bit of trouble, throws down the Flame Chompers as well as the Gale Force to get out of there, so they are still looking, and for the first time in the last 2 games, honestly, Spectre Gaming, they've got themselves their first gold lead.
Yeah, I actually really like what Spectre Gaming's doing, and you can just tell like by the way they play the game, they're really resilient in these late game scenarios. And MG Elements are kind of just like forcing a little bit too much sometimes in these areas, losing like usually key cooldowns or key members of their team just because they feel like they should be able to contest anything. And now I believe Jinx finally has enough gold to go back and get her IE as well. So she is going to have a massive power spike coming into this next fight.
She has Infinity Edge complete, you know, Out of Blue still waiting for that. And if we look at the individual gold, actually, it's a difference of about 700 gold. It's not a big difference, but in these late game fights, the difference between just the BF sword and an Infinity Edge can be massive. One big crit from HyperRev, one rocket crit onto 3-4 members with the Runa, or doesn't even have the Runa on Hurricane. Just one rocket can make the difference between your team fight win and your team fight loss. And of course, Lake here on this Shyvana, 3 completed items. So beefy on this champion. Of course, not really a match for the Cho'Gath ultimate on Venom's Q, but over a long fight, it might end up being the difference. Venom trying to stay alive, but Lake will stake their claim and find a solo kill once again. And that doesn't bode well for this dragon. Should be soul point going over to Spectre Gaming.
Yeah, at this point, you're just going to kind of have to give it away. I think that they're almost going to try to take a page out of Spectre's book and try to force something in the top lane. Whether they just try to collapse on Lake or go for Baron is yet to be seen. They're going to immediately go for Baron. I don't like this call, I don't think, from MG Elements.
Out of Blue has a lot of damage, has the right guns for it, but it looks like they might just bait it out a little bit. Learning, though, going to be able to face check that bush. Great Gale Force away from Out of Blue. Will it be enough? Learning is ticking down so low, and it's going to be Out of Blue flashing forward once again with that Killer Instinct, able to stay alive with the Severum heals as well. Runner 90, though, in a world of hurt, going to have to ult over the wall. 80 carries, each picking up a kill. Oh my goodness, Aphelios was barely staying alive. That could have been a disaster for MG Element, but it ends up just being a 1-for-1 mid laner for support.
And we're going to actually see another risky call coming out for this Baron. This Baron actually being very key, and this is a great flank ward from this Camille.
It's a really good flank angle, but, you know, there's no ultimate on Runner 90. Flash is available. Venom going into that backline, lands onto Swagasm, is able to lock down Red. HyperF is taking so much damage. HyperF is down. The Jinx has been taken down, and Runner 90 now taking over the Fed. Jinx will be able to do so much damage. It's another kill picked up. A triple kill for King Annihilator on the Galio. Swagasm will be able to get out alive. No, they won't. Runner 90 goes over the wall, able to pick up their 11th kill of the game. And at the final hour around Baron, against all odds, MG Element are able to stake their claim, find the fight, pick up 4-for-1, and now it's learning against the world.
Yeah, I don't think that was like the best call to go for that Baron there. Generally, the Barons this game has been pretty risky, except for Spectre's first call towards it, which was just really to win a team fight. I think, honestly, this should just be their Baron, but this is actually a nice peel-off, a nice attempt by Ari to try to prevent the Baron from going over. But at this point, it's going to be very difficult going forward, I believe, for Spectre Gaming.
Oh, it's just going to be a massive challenge at this point, because you look at King Annihilator now sitting on 3.5 items, a huge fight coming through, picking up the triple kill. Now 3.5 items on the Viego as well. Suddenly this Ari isn't that scary. The Aphelios still waiting on that Infinity Edge. I think they've almost got enough gold for it there. Ended up going for the stopwatch to get a little bit more safety, but they will end up getting...
Now that he's got the Death Dance and the stopwatch, though, it does seem to favor his ability to stay alive, because he's already been managing to stay safe, even through like very hectic team fights, and not give it over beforehand. And that was back with just 2 squishy items. So now that he has the stopwatch to be able to prevent bursts as well as the Death Dance, it's just kind of looking like Runner 90's game in general.
The Runner 90 has all the tools to stay alive, and you know, once we get the Infinity Edge on Aphelios here for Out of Blue, then I think it might just be game. But looking at the gold lead, how shocking. It's not huge. It's 3,500 gold. Venom, though, still trying to test their fate against Lake here. You only have that Divine Sunder proc so often. Venom will be burning down. Lake gonna find another kill on to the Camille, but it means it's a 4v3 under this tower, and they're gonna try and look to push that forward.
You know, that's where it's kind of surprising to me that he opted into the cooldown reduction boots, because generally, like the two, like even though yes, Trundle will be coming up there oftentimes, like I do think the Merc Treads could have had some value. I guess since there's not so much CC, that he decided not to opt into them, but I just like the magic resist basically. The Bush of Death.
Oh my goodness, the Death Bush here. Swagasm not going to be caught out quite yet. The Infernal Ultimate takes about 600 health off of Learning. That was a dangerous blast cone back from Out of Blue, but they won't get punished for that. They tried, but it won't be enough. Runner 90 just playing Hookie over the wall, looking for a couple of stabs there, but Dragon Soul will be spawning in 70 seconds here for the side of Spectre Gaming. That can be their play if they want to look for the Soul. Now would be the time to do so, because you're down gold. You need to try and force another fight, and Baron is expiring right before that Dragon spawns as well.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if I was Spectre Gaming, it's all just about like trying to weather the storm the best you can. A very interesting Gale Force and a Charm landing in the bot lane.
Oh,
He's gonna have to ult away. He's burning.
Gonna be going golden, has to try and stay alive. Oh my goodness, gets over somehow the traps. Meanwhile, top side, top laners fighting. Venom might win out on this one, but no, Lake cuts them down in their tracks. Once again, the Shyvana top lane refuses to die. Late game carry, though, has to be careful. Trying to kite this one out. Swagasm's looking for the pillar, but will not find it. Once again, the side lane just goes south for the side of MG Element, and it just feels like Spectre Gaming, they're able to get control of the map once again, despite losing that Baron, despite losing a lot of their inner towers. Now, Dragon seems to be in control for Spectre, and they can't contest it.
I still can't believe Viego even got past the Chompers. I swore the Chompers were it. Like, it just seems like he just absolutely refuses to die this game. And believe it or not, this Soul can either be amazing or absolutely awful for Spectre Gaming, because now the Elder is alive, and they haven't necessarily always had the pushing power to leave their base. So now it does seem like they're kind of on a time limit. They have to make sure to be able to secure the Elder in the future. But it's just one of those things where sometimes getting Soul can be as much of a boon as it is dangerous.
Yeah, and of course, when you're losing the side lane as badly as it has been thus far, it's going to be rough for the side of MG Element to get any sort of control on the opposite side of the map. Venom just trying to avoid Lake at all costs now, because Lake 7, 8, and 7.
A full build.
It's a messy scoreline, but full build, as you said, has enough AP to be able to survive or dish out enough damage against Venom, has the Demonic Embrace to get even more AP off of bonus health, and, 3 armor items. It's never going to be Galio versus Shyvana here. Galio's not going to win the 1v1 regardless of what they build, even if it was full AP, because there'd just be enough damage coming through from the Shyvana.
An absolute nutty stat is the fact that the 787 Shyvana has more gold than the 1104 Viego.
They've just been a side lane menace this game. It's disgusting to see, but you get shutdowns going through for the Shyvana as well. This is Lake's pick. This is why they picked the Shyvana top lane. We can question it all we want. We can say this isn't meta. Lake does not give a chocolate dessert about it.
Does not give a fudge.
Yes, but
but we are seeing a heavy collapse on Lake here. He is going to try to run away. Actually, considering who is still flanking him, I think he gets out pretty easily.
They're just going to end up passing like ships in the night, giving up a lot of mid lane pressure there. Out of blue, has to be careful as late game carry almost gets cut out by a pillar. But yeah, Lake, you can't really do much about Lake at this point in the game. It's incredibly hard to try and stay alive. Now, Runner 90 has to be careful. Lake moving forward aggressively. The flash already out from Runner 90. Venom's in so much trouble. Doesn't pop the Hextech ultimatum quite yet. Gonna use that onto the Lulu in the back line, but it's not good enough. Swagasm, though, almost taken down. Lake still in that front line. More than half health. Still going hard. Learning takes down late game carry. Out of blue, force the flash away. Will be taken down as well. Lake is on a rampage now. Runner 90 will be going into the Guardian Angel, and somehow Spectre Gaming find a way to get back into this one. The shutdown goes into Lake's pocket. Hyper F flashes forward. And Spectre Gaming, they are down. They are never out. And they are going to push us to a game 3. They get the ace very close to the base. And, with 20 seconds left on the Seraphine of all people, this should be game.
Yeah, and this is definitely another one of those you live by the Lake or die by it. Lake with an absolutely crazy performance after such an ugly early game where he was just kind of getting ganked over and over again. Didn't really have an answer to it, but man, the second he got a split push on, it was just impossible. And then not only that, but MG Elements just kind of stacking everything to not even jump on Hyper F. And if you don't jump on Hyper F in the middle of a fight, Hyper F is just going to pop off.
Yeah, the Jinx, we talked about how slow that early game was for the bottom side of the map. They're able to pick it up as the game goes on, but it just seems like Hyper F they just got excited. They were able to get excited and take over the game. It's as easy as that when it comes down to it. But overall, great performance from Spectre Gaming. And with 2 of our top teams going at it on a Wednesday night, of course we were going to get ourselves a BTL certified banger. Come on. But overall, that's one that both teams, gave it their all, and it's not enough for the series quite yet. At least not for MG Element. In Defiance, before we head to a break here, just give us your last thoughts about this game and what you expect out of Game 3 now.
I'm going to sum it up with the phrase that I use over and over again. You live by the lake or you die by it. And we're going to see Spectre Gaming probably take this 2-1 in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see how this Game 3 turns out, but we will take a short break. When we are back, we will find out if Spectre Gaming will be able to live by the lake or if they will die by the lake, as Defiance said. We'll be right back.